Have you ever felt like you were searching for something, but you couldn't quite name it? Like there was a silent ache inside you, a restlessness that didn't come from pain, but from something deeper, older, sacred? Maybe it strikes you in the quiet moments, when you're staring at the stars, holding a newborn, or hearing a song that moves you to tears for no logical reason. Maybe you felt it too, that haunting sense that this world, for all its beauty, is not quite your home. What if I told you that feeling isn't just emotion, but memory? The Bible whispers something incredible, something most of us have never truly heard, or maybe we've just forgotten. In Ephesians 1 verse 4, it says, "He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world." And in Jeremiah 1 verse 5, God tells the prophet, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Before you had a name. Before your heart took its first beat. Before the stars even existed. God knew you. He didn't just plan for you. He remembered you into being. That changes everything. See, most of us grow up thinking life begins at birth. That your soul starts fresh, clean, and empty. But what if that's not the full story? What if your soul didn't start here, but simply arrived? The ache you carry. The longing that sometimes shows up in the middle of joy or silence. It's not confusion. It's recognition. It's your soul remembering a place it once knew, a place of light, purpose, and belonging. A place where you were chosen, not by chance, but by divine design. This idea, what some call pre-existence, isn't just mystical poetry. It's written into the heart of Scripture. It's not about reincarnation or fantasy. It's about something deeper, spiritual memory. The quiet truth that before you stepped into time, you were already known in eternity. So if you've ever wondered why you sometimes feel like a stranger in your own life, why the world feels both beautiful and incomplete, it might be because your soul remembers where it came from. And it's not just remembering, it's longing to return. Not to escape this life, but to live it fully, with the clarity of knowing who you are and where you come from. You weren't created to perform. You were formed to belong. And maybe, just maybe, this longing you've carried all your life, is actually the echo of the first voice that ever called your name. And that changes everything. Have you ever had a moment that stopped you in your tracks? Like a sudden wave of peace that had no reason. Or a flash of emotion you couldn't explain. Maybe a familiar feeling in a place you've never been, or a connection with someone you barely knew. Those moments, they're not just passing feelings. They're echoes. Glimpses. Hints of something your soul already knows. You see, your existence is not random. You weren't thrown into this world by chance or accident. You were sent, intentionally, carefully, lovingly, by a God who designed you before time began. Ephesians 1 verse 4 reminds us, He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world. That means your soul was not an afterthought. It wasn't stitched together in a rush. It was imagined in the mind of God with purpose, with delight. You were meant to be here. Not just to exist, but to fulfill something ancient, something spoken long before you took your first breath. And yet, most of us go through life feeling like we have to become someone. Like we're on a constant quest to figure out who we are. But maybe the truth is simpler. Maybe life isn't about becoming someone new, but about remembering who you've always been. Because deep down, your soul already knows. That longing you feel for something more. That strange ache that shows up when the world goes quiet. That's not confusion. It's memory. It's your soul trying to find its way back to what it once knew, to the voice that called it into being. Even ancient traditions outside of Christianity have echoed this idea. Cultures across the world speak of a soul that exists before the body, a calling that comes before the breath. And while those ideas may take different forms, they point to a common truth: you were created with purpose, from the very beginning. You weren't made to drift. You were sent with a direction. Your life is prophetic. Your presence here means something. So the next time you feel like you don't belong, or like you're still trying to find your place, remember this: your soul already carries the blueprint. You're not lost. You're just remembering. And that, my friend, is a sacred process. Have you ever looked into the eyes of a newborn and felt something ancient looking back? Like they've just arrived, but somehow carry a quiet wisdom. A sense that they came from somewhere holy. That they didn't just begin, they returned. There's an old Hebrew tradition. It speaks of something called the Guf, the Chamber of Souls. A divine treasury where every soul waits before entering the world. It's not spelled out like doctrine in Scripture, but the idea echoes through the pages of the Bible, and through the depths of your spirit. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 7 whispers it: the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. If the spirit returns to God, then it must have come from Him. Which means, there was a before. Can you imagine that? Before your first cry. Before the world even knew your name. Your soul existed in God's presence. Not just floating, not just waiting, but anticipating, with a holy kind of longing, for the moment it would be sent into time. You weren't born by accident. You were released. You see, we live in a world that treats life like a roll of the dice. Like people just happen. But the truth is far more sacred. Every soul is not thrown into the world. It is called, named, chosen. And in a moment that only heaven remembers, your soul stepped from eternity into the womb. That changes how we see everything. It means you weren't just born, you were sent. And if you were sent, then your life carries assignment. Purpose. Divine intention. That's why some babies seem to carry depth in their eyes. That's why certain children speak with wisdom that feels far too old for their age. Maybe their souls are still glowing from the chamber they just left. Still echoing with the voice that sent them. And maybe, just maybe, that ache you sometimes feel when you stare at the stars, or when a piece of music moves you without warning, that's your soul remembering. Not longing for a place, but for the one who called you. The chamber of souls may be invisible. But the memory of it is not. You carry its imprint. And that longing inside you, it isn't weakness. It's your soul's compass, pointing gently back toward home. Have you ever wondered why you don't remember where you came from? I'm not talking about your childhood or your hometown, I mean before that. Long before. Before your first breath. Before your body even existed. Where was your soul? And more importantly, why can't you remember? Some say forgetting is a flaw. A defect in the human experience. But what if it's not? What if the forgetting itself was part of the design? The book of Ecclesiastes says something deeply mysterious. In chapter 3, verse 11, it says, God has set eternity in the human heart. But here's the catch, it also says, no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. So the eternity is there. Inside of us. Not gone. Just hidden. That's not an accident. It's grace. Because if we entered this life fully aware of where we came from, if the full weight of heaven's glory was still resting on our shoulders, we wouldn't be able to function in this broken world. The contrast would crush us. So God, in His mercy, gave us something I call divine amnesia. A veil. Not to erase who we are, but to protect the journey we're about to take. It's not meant to strip us of our identity. It's meant to allow something sacred to happen, the freedom to choose. You see, real love requires choice. Real faith only exists where certainty ends. If you remembered everything, every detail of your eternal origin, would trust still be trust? Would love still be love, if it wasn't chosen in mystery? But even though we forget, God doesn't leave us without clues. Have you ever cried during a worship song and didn't know why? Ever had chills while reading scripture, or a moment of peace so deep it silenced your thoughts? That's your soul remembering. Tears, joy, goosebumps, they're not just emotions. They're signals. Holy echoes. Little pieces of eternity still vibrating inside you. They remind you that you came from somewhere holy, and you are still connected to that place. So the next time you feel something sacred rising in you for no clear reason, don't dismiss it. That could be your soul, pulling back the veil just for a moment. Whispering, you've been here before. You've known this love. And one day, you'll remember it all. Have you ever felt a longing you just couldn't explain? Not for a person. Not for a place. But for something deeper. Something you can't quite name, but you feel it. In the quiet moments. In the middle of a beautiful sunset. In the hush after a song that moved you more than it should have. It's like your soul is homesick. But not for any home on this earth. And maybe that's exactly what it is. Psalm 42 verse 1 puts it into words, as the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. That isn't poetry. It's instinct. It's the cry of a soul that remembers its origin. Not from trauma. Not from scarcity. But from wholeness. From a place so complete, so saturated in love, that nothing here on earth can truly compare. This ache, this holy homesickness, isn't something to be cured. It's something to be understood. It's a signal. A divine pulse. It's your soul remembering what it was made for. You feel it when you're standing alone in nature, and for a moment the world feels still and sacred. You feel it when a melody unlocks something in you that words never could. Or when you meet someone and there's a connection you can't explain. It's not attraction, it's recognition. Soul to soul. That's not coincidence. That's eternity brushing up against time. And here's the truth, even the most successful people, the ones with money, fame, admiration, they still feel the ache. Because the soul was never designed to be filled with things. It was designed to be filled with presence. You can build the perfect life on paper and still feel empty inside. Why? Because no house, no title, no amount of applause can silence a soul that is homesick for God. And yet, the ache itself is a gift. It's not weakness. It's not brokenness. It's proof that your soul is still alive. Still reaching. Still listening. Still remembering. So instead of numbing it, let it lead you. Instead of running from it, follow where it points. Because that ache, that longing, might just be the voice of heaven calling you back to the one place you were always meant to belong. Home. Have you ever looked at a newborn and thought, they know something we've forgotten? There's something in their eyes, something deeper than innocence. A quiet light. A mystery you can't quite explain. As if they carry a piece of heaven that hasn't yet faded. And maybe, they do. Because according to the Bible, life didn't begin with biology, it began with breath. In Genesis 2 verse 7, it says, "Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul." That moment is more than ancient poetry. It is the blueprint for all life. God didn't just make a body. He gave a soul. And that soul didn't arrive empty. It didn't enter the body as a blank canvas. It came filled, with light, with memory, with eternity etched into its core. You were not just formed. You were filled. And here's what's wild to consider, that glow you sometimes see in a child's face, that wonder in their eyes, that unexplainable peace when they sleep, it might be more than youth. It might be residue. Traces of the sacred. A glimpse of where they came from. Heaven still shimmering on their skin. And as we grow older, that shimmer may fade, but it never disappears. Because the soul doesn't forget where it came from. It remembers. Even when our minds don't. That's why you sometimes get a gut feeling that saves you. Or feel a pull in your chest before your brain can make sense of what's happening. It's not magic. It's memory. It's eternity speaking in a language only the soul understands. The connection between soul and body is not a coincidence. It's a covenant. God didn't just place you in a body, He breathed His essence into you. And in doing so, He made you His image bearer. Not just flesh and bone, but divine and eternal. And yet, carrying eternity in a fragile shell isn't easy. The soul remembers glory. The body tastes pain. That tension is real. But it's also sacred. It's the space where heaven and earth meet, inside of you. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. Not just because your body works, but because your soul remembers. And every time you feel that whisper inside, the intuition, the peace, the warning, it's not your imagination. It's the breath of God. Still speaking. Still alive in you. Have you ever felt like you're living two lives at once? Like there's one part of you that craves peace, stillness, purpose, and then there's the other part that's constantly caught up in pressure, distractions, and exhaustion. It's as if your soul and your body are marching to different rhythms. And maybe, they are. Romans 8 verses 22 to 23 says it plainly, all creation groans as in the pains of childbirth, and we ourselves groan inwardly as we wait for the redemption of our bodies. That's not just poetic language, it's the honest confession of what it feels like to be human. Fully spiritual, yet stuck in a world that doesn't quite match what we're made for. Your soul was formed in eternity. It was created in the presence of God, bathed in stillness, filled with light, made for glory. But now it lives in a body. A body that gets tired. Anxious. Distracted. Pulled in 100 directions. And that tension, that internal tug-of-war, isn't a flaw. It's holy. Because it means you were made for more. The ache you feel when you scroll through endless noise and still feel empty, the hunger for meaning that doesn't go away, even when everything seems fine on the outside, that's not dysfunction. That's divine resistance. It's your soul pushing back against shallow living. We weren't made to thrive in chaos. Our souls long for presence. But the world screams for performance. We crave silence. The culture demands noise. We're told to do more, earn more, prove more, but deep down, something inside us whispers, there's got to be more than this. And there is. But here's the truth no one tells you, the way forward isn't by fighting the tension. It's by honoring it. Because that struggle you feel, it's the space where transformation happens. Where the soul stretches and the flesh softens. Where your eternal identity meets your human experience, and something sacred begins to shift. So don't numb the ache. Don't bury the battle. Let it speak. Let it guide you. When you feel tired but still trust God, when you question, but still show up, when you feel lost, yet keep walking, those are the moments when heaven is breaking through the dust. The clash inside you isn't your weakness. It's the holy evidence that you were never meant to settle here. You were born to remember, and to return. What if life isn't a straight line? What if it's not about climbing higher, achieving more, or escaping what's broken? What if life is actually a return? A sacred circle, from God, and back to God. We don't often think of it that way. We're taught to move forward, chase progress, push harder. But deep inside, there's this quiet pull, something in us that's not trying to escape, but trying to go home. It's not about leaving the world behind. It's about remembering where we began. And Jesus told a story that captures this perfectly. You've probably heard it, the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. A young man demands his inheritance, leaves home, loses himself in a distant land, until one day, he remembers. He turns around. And here's the part that always gets me, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, and ran to him. That's not a story about shame. That's a story about grace. The father didn't stand at the gate with a list of failures. He didn't demand explanations. He ran, arms wide open, tears in his eyes, not to judge, but to embrace. And that's the heart of God toward you. Because life isn't just about surviving this world. It's about returning to the one who first dreamed you into existence. That tug you feel sometimes, the one that stirs when you hear truth, or when something beautiful moves you to tears, it's not coincidence. It's a compass. A soul-deep nudge saying, come back. Remember. You're not lost, you're on your way home. And the return isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's found in small moments, when you forgive someone who hurt you, or when you whisper a prayer without words. Sometimes it's just showing up when you feel unworthy, or choosing hope when all you feel is doubt. Every time your heart turns toward God, even just a little, that's a step home. And He meets you there. Every single time. Not because you earned it. But because you were always loved. You were always known. So maybe your journey isn't about escaping who you are. Maybe it's about remembering who you've always been. And maybe, just maybe, every step you've taken, even the ones that felt like wandering, have all been part of the road leading you back. What do you think will happen the moment you stand before God? Not the version from movies. Not the thunder, the clouds, or the courtroom cliches. I mean the real moment, the one where time ends and eternity begins. Where you are no longer hiding. No longer striving. Just seeing. Hebrews 9 verse 27 says, "It is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment." And for many of us, that word, judgment, carries fear. We imagine shame, condemnation, a list of everything we've ever done wrong. But what if judgment isn't cold punishment? What if it's not about fear, but about full, radiant truth? Imagine standing in the presence of the one who formed you. The one who walked beside you when you thought you were alone. The one who knew every silent prayer, every quiet sacrifice, every moment you chose love when no one was watching. In that moment, every mask falls away. Every excuse fades. Not because God is trying to expose you, but because He's finally showing you who you really are. The real you. The one He saw before time began. The one He still sees, with mercy, not condemnation. Judgment is not a verdict against you. It's a revelation of truth, with love. It's the moment when God gathers all your motives, your joys, your wounds, your secret kindnesses, and looks at them with eyes that have only ever wanted your good. The fire of that moment is not to destroy, it's to refine. To purify. To make you whole. And here's what makes it beautiful, your eternal destiny is not shaped by perfection. It's shaped by direction. God isn't looking for flawless performance. He's looking for a heart that turned toward Him, even when it was trembling. Even when it stumbled. Jesus told stories about this. Wheat and weeds. Sheep and goats. Not to divide us with fear, but to awaken us with decision. Which way is your heart facing? That's the question. Because the embrace is waiting. Not for the perfect. Not for the polished. But for the willing. The honest. The ones who dared to turn, even just a little, toward the light. So when you think about that final moment, don't picture a courtroom. Picture a father, running to meet you. A voice calling your name. Arms wide open, not because you earned it, but because He's been waiting for you all along. Have you ever felt like something was calling you, but you couldn't quite explain what it was? It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a thought. It was more like a feeling. A whisper in your soul. A tug in your chest. Something stirring deep inside you, quiet but persistent. And no matter how busy life gets, that whisper doesn't go away. What if I told you, that whisper is not just coming from you? What if it's not your longing for God, but God's longing for you, echoing through your soul? Before your name was ever spoken on earth, before your face was seen by any human eyes, there was a voice. A voice that knew you. Formed you. Chose you. And in the silence of eternity, that voice whispered your name. John 10 verse 27 says, "My sheep hear my voice, I know them, and they follow me." That's not poetic language. That's identity. That voice, it's the first voice your soul ever heard. And deep down, whether you've realized it or not, every moment of your life has been a response to it. Think about that for a second. The tears you've cried during worship. The peace that came when everything else was falling apart. The unexplainable pull you felt during a sunset or a simple prayer. These aren't just emotional moments. They're moments of recognition. Moments when your soul remembers. Because the voice that first called you has never stopped speaking. Even when you walked away. Even when you felt numb. Even when you weren't listening. It kept whispering. And maybe the reason nothing in this world has fully satisfied you, the reason no success, no relationship, no title has ever been enough, is because this world's voices were never meant to satisfy a soul made for that voice. You were created to respond. Not to noise, but to calling. And when your soul aches, when you feel that restlessness, it's not a flaw. It's not something to fix. It's evidence that you're still listening. That somewhere deep inside, your soul is remembering the one who called it first. You were never lost. You were being drawn back. And if today you hear that voice a little clearer, don't ignore it. Because the longing you feel is his voice reaching for you. And you're longing for him. That's just his love, echoing back. So maybe now you understand. That ache you've been carrying. That restlessness in your chest that shows up in quiet moments or right before you fall asleep. It's not a flaw. It's not brokenness. It's your soul trying to remember. Because you weren't made just to survive this world. You were made to awaken. To remember. And to return. And this journey, the one you're walking right now, it's not about becoming someone new. It's about uncovering the truth of who you've always been. Chosen. Eternal. Loved beyond what your mind can grasp. Maybe you've been chasing things, hoping they would make you feel whole. A better job. A new relationship. More recognition. But nothing satisfies the soul like remembering the voice that called it into being. And if today, something inside you stirred, even slightly, if your heart felt a little lighter, or your spirit felt like it was exhaling for the first time in a long time. That's not coincidence. That's God's whisper. And he's never stopped speaking. He's been calling you, not with thunder, but with stillness. Not with pressure, but with presence. So here's what I invite you to do. If something awakened in you during this message, take a moment. Pause. Honor it. Type these simple words in the comments. I remember. Not because the story just began, but because deep down, you know it's always been there. And if this message reminded you of something your soul needed to hear, share it with someone you love. Because sometimes your story becomes someone else's key. Sometimes your words become the light they've been looking for. And if you ever wonder whether your support matters, whether liking, commenting, or sharing makes a difference, remember this. Every act of support is a sacred seed. And in God's hands, seeds grow into forests of healing. Thank you for walking this far. You didn't just hear a video today. You remembered something holy. And that changes everything.